Break's over, Roach. Let's go.
Iconic. There is no better singular word to describe Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. After the rousing success of Call of Duty 4 in 2007, Infinity Ward had to make their next game bigger, louder, and faster to make it stand out. Released in 2009, Modern Warfare 2 was all of these and more. The campaign was more intense, the multiplayer was more frenetic than ever, and Spec Ops was born to give those completionists 3 stars to shoot for in every challenge. Now in 2020, Modern Warfare 2 returns with a graphic overhaul. Or, well, at least the campaign does. Rumored to have been in development for 2 years, the Modern Warfare 2 campaign remaster leaked on March 30th and was released the very next day. The only problem was with the name, Campaign Remaster. That's right, there's no multiplayer or Spec Ops included in this package. With a fresh reboot still pumping out DLC and free-to-play Battle Royale modes, though, why bother splitting the player base? So we're taking a look at the remastered campaign that debuted in 2009 and seeing how it holds up. We're going to discuss full spoilers, but the story is 11 years old almost, so I'm not really sure there's anything left to spoil. But there's your warning anyways. Modern Warfare 2 picks up 5 years after Modern Warfare 1 ended, and it's great to relive the intro with updated cinematics from the 2016 remaster of that game. As soon as it cuts to 5 years later, lapsed players will immediately remember the fantastic voice talent and the cast for this game.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Boundaries shift, new players step in, but power always finds a place to rest its head.
Lance Henriksen plays General Shepard, the commanding general of Spec Ops task force known as the 141. Keith David voices Sergeant Foley of the U.S. Army Rangers, bringing some nice Decepticon bass to the cast.
You know what I'm looking for, Sergeant Foley. Keep your eyes open.
Got a new batch hitting the pit today, sir. I'll send you the best I find.
Glenn Morshower is also once again typecast as a military commander, lending his voice to the Overlord commander that's only ever heard through comms.
Zulu X-Ray 6, signs in your sector of some 100 bogeys, please advise.
Rounding out Task Force 141 is a familiar name, Soap McTavish, voiced by Kevin McKidd. Soap was the main playable character of the previous Modern Warfare, and his role is now expanded on as the field commander of 141. Another familiar voice returns to voice a new character, with Craig Fairbass voicing Simon Ghost Riley, a character that would become more iconic than his previous role from Modern Warfare as Gaz. Players take control of Gary Roach Sanderson for the TF-141 missions, assisting Soap and Ghost with tracking down high-value targets around the globe. General Shepard pulls Army Ranger Private Joseph Allen into the 141 to use for an undercover operation. After the fictional Russian Civil War from the last game ended, the bad guys won and took power, but the slain one-armed villain from that game will not go unavenged. Vladimir Makarov is taking control of Imran Zakhaev's radical ultranationalists and commits terrorist acts across Russia to demand war with the Western world. It's worth noting that developer Beanox has remastered the entire campaign, and that includes one of the most controversial missions in video game history, let alone Call of Duty history.
С нами Бог. Remember, no Russian.
The infamous No Russian level returns in full re-rendered 1080p 4K infamy in this remaster, and it's just as chilling as it was back in 2009, if not more so. In the world we live in today, mass shootings have unfortunately become more and more common, so it seems objectionable to give players control of this one. The mainstream media had a field day with this level back in the day, and if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic as of the release of this remaster and the writing of this review, I'm sure that they'd be having another one. I've staked my claim for why this mission is necessary for the game before in live streams with friends, but I'll do so again here for posterity. While the actions in the level are egregious, especially in today's climate, the mission exists for more than just shock value like many believe it does. With the massacre finished, Makarov executes the player's character, placing an American operative at the feet of an untold number of dead Russian civilians and police officers. While Makarov is a known terrorist to the Russian government, the body of CIA agent Joseph Allen then paints the airport massacre and all previous terrorist attacks for Makarov's group as US-sanctioned acts of aggression. To the eyes of Russia and most of the world, Makarov has been receiving paychecks from America to do whatever he pleases. A mass shooting from domestic terrorists becomes an act of war, and Russia is all too happy to oblige. This mission is integral to the plot so much that not only does the story of this game rely on it, but Modern Warfare 3's plot does as well. One might argue that this could be done through a cutscene instead of a playable section, but let's look at the game design. From the moment the game starts, players are put in the shoes of Private Allen. Like previous Call of Duty games, this means that this is a character that players are expecting to play as for a good portion of the campaign. In an excellent twist and subversion of expectations, the character you're playing as is killed in the first act of the game. For the rest of the campaign, the player realizes that no playable character is safe, and it puts them on their toes for the remainder of the story. Not to mention that it teaches the character that Makarov is a villain not to be taken lightly like Zakhaev or Al-Assad in the previous game. The only reason why this level is considered to be skippable today is because it's an old game and everyone that cares knows the story extremely well. To someone playing this game for the first time, they're left confused as the game skips an entire level and the player has to piece together what happened in the interim. While the words massacre and dead American are used, the following cutscene moves so fast that it would give a newcomer whiplash. Compare this now to Modern Warfare 3's Davis Family Vacation mission. This is a mission that exists purely for shock value, as an alternate ending to the previous mission was programmed into the game should players want to skip the graphic content in store for them. If a player skips the mission, then a van with a dirty bomb placed inside detonates in front of the player and his squad of British Special Forces next to Downing Street. If the player chooses not to skip the mission, then they have to watch in horror as a family of tourists is killed by a similar bomb in a similar van. These aren't characters that have been in the game up until this mission. They exist only to get killed and shock the player, as opposed to Sergeant Wallcroft and the SAS Commandos, which were minor characters returning from Modern Warfare 1. Modern Warfare had its nuke scene. Modern Warfare 2 had no Russian, so Modern Warfare 3 felt it needed something too, and it fell on its face in the process. So in conclusion, no Russian has a reason to exist beyond shock value. It propels the plot forward in an interesting way by breaking whatever sense of security the player had built up until this point in the game. Following the massacre, the 141 dispersed across the globe to try and prove that Makarov was the mastermind behind it as Russia invades the United States. And this is one of my favorite parts about the game: America under siege. Now this can be taken the wrong way, so let me explain myself. I like seeing America attacked as a plot device because it gives the American forces in the game a good opponent to fight and to rise up against. Seeing Russian paratroopers landing in suburbia or an evac site at the Washington Monument under fire are images that rouse lots of patriotic feelings inside. You want to come into our house, Russia? Well, you better be ready for a fight, because you're going to get a big one. The climactic rush up the White House stairs to clear it of Russians and stop the Air Force from flattening Washington, D.C. to stop Russians from getting their hands on intel gets my adrenaline pumping every single time I play this mission. And I've played the campaign a lot. While Sergeant Foley tells your new character Ramirez to do everything under the sun, the 141 gets into more spectacle and epic moments to really show off some of the lighting work that has been done in this remaster. Like the previous Modern Warfare remaster, the colors in this game are more vibrant than ever and really help the world stand out. The added detail to everything really makes the world look great as well. The textures in the Xbox 360/PS3 era could only do so much, and with the added power of the PS4, newspaper clippings are more legible than ever, and surfaces have lots of nice grit and grime to them. Just when it seemed like the game couldn't get any better, a Call of Duty icon makes his return in grand fashion. Captain Price is rescued from the Gulag, and he's reunited with his own comrade Soap at last. With these two together again, Makarov better watch out, because the 141 is coming for him in full force. After Ghost and Roach raid one of Makarov's safe houses, General Shepard arrives to give us a detailed look at his updated character model and deliver a scene that never fails to make me angry.
You have the DSL. We've got it, sir.
Good. That's one less loose end.
No!
Area is sanitized. All targets destroyed. Solid copy. No movement detected. 2-6 going into holding pattern.
Turns out the reason Makarov knew that Allen was an American agent is because Shepard tipped him off to engineer the Russian war with America.
5 years ago, I lost 30,000 men in the blink of an eye. And the world just watched.
To Shepard, the only way to reclaim his former glory was to win a war, but if there wasn't a war to fight, he'd coerce one into happening. Now, both Makarov and Task Force 141 are loose ends in his goal, and he's eliminating anyone that can figure out the truth. Captain Price and Soap manage to survive and track Shepard down to a PMC base in Afghanistan and hunt him down. After a brutal fight in which Soap is stabbed in the chest, the player rips it out and throws it at Shepard, ending his schemes. The added details and animation to the game here are great, as they help make a great scene even better. Price loses his hat in the fist fight with Shepard, and the General's face goes slack as the knife embeds itself in his skull. Price patches Soap up the best he can before a returning cameo from the last game arrives to whisk them to temporary safety. Overall, the campaign holds up really well compared to today's standards. It's a non-stop action thrill ride that never ceases to entertain and serves as an excellent middle chapter in the trilogy. Once the campaign is over, players can take a tour of the Infinity Ward Museum and view the updated character models that were used for the game. You can even ignore instructions and ring this bell, but I don't think it does anything. An addition from Beanox not found in the original game is that the cheats from Call of Duty 4 make their way over now, allowing the player to give themselves an extra challenge while playing, or add stuff to the visuals to give themselves a good laugh. A slew of Easter eggs can be found in the game as well, with one of my favorites being Yuri being added to the No Russian mission to keep continuity with Modern Warfare 3. These cheats and Easter eggs will keep players busy with the game a little longer, which is good since once the campaign is over, there isn't much else to do. I won't lie, upon beating the campaign, the game does feel a little hollow knowing I can't jump over to the multiplayer and get a 10 kill streak on high rise with my Kimbo MP5Ks and call in an AC-130 to rain fire down upon my enemies. Considering that Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer is legendary and the servers for the game are full of hackers right now, last I checked anyway, it is a little disappointing that this remaster doesn't have it. As I said at the top though, it doesn't make much sense to give Modern Warfare 2 Remaster its multiplayer suite when the Modern Warfare 2019 reboot only came out back in October. It makes sense to include Call of Duty 4 multiplayer in that remaster since it was originally bundled with Infinite Warfare. That way, newer fans got a multiplayer experience for them and older fans got one for them. In terms of classic maps being added to Modern Warfare 2019, Rust has already found its way to the regular multiplayer rotation and Scrapyard was incorporated into the Warzone map, with some more supposedly being on the way. As an extra incentive for buying the Modern Warfare 2 campaign remaster, a scuba skin for Ghost and other personalization options such as icons are unlocked in Modern Warfare 2019 to use, so that's cool. So what's the best deal for this game? Well, much in the way Raven lovingly remastered Call of Duty 4 back in 2016, Beanox has done the same for the Modern Warfare 2 campaign. Considering the game originally launched in 2009, the animations, textures, and character models have been given a much needed facelift while keeping the heart of the game intact. I'm of the belief that this game is indeed worth the $20 it's being offered for. But if you happen to find it on sale for less, you won't go wrong. I'm glad to have two of the best first-person shooter campaigns remastered on current-gen hardware, but I only have one question.
So, when we going to Moscow?
Not soon enough, man. But I know we're gonna burn it down when we get there.
When the time's right, Corporal. When the time's right.